Now, a line filed by the AFP news agency a few hours ago has set some of the tone for coverage of our next story. The headline read, "Pavement glued down in Hong Kong for China official visit." 6,000 police have been deployed in preparation for the visit of Zhang Dejiang. He's the most senior Beijing official to visit the territory since the pro-democracy protests in 2014, and he is responsible in Beijing for what are called Hong Kong affairs. Now, Hong Kong, as you may remember, has a degree of autonomy unknown in mainland China, and activist groups, pro-democracy groups they call themselves, are anxious to maintain that status. They've promised to carry out demonstrations despite the security presence, which appears, to go back to that headline, to have involved pouring glue into cracks between paving slabs around where Zhang will be speaking, all, of course, so they can't be pulled up and used as weapons. Let's talk now to the editor-in-chief of the Hong Kong Free Press, Tom Grundy. Tom, welcome to the programme. This is obviously a big visit, bearing in mind that Zhang is responsible, as I mentioned, for Hong Kong affairs. What's the ostensible reason for his visit?
Well, yeah, this is China's number 3 official who's in town, arriving just an hour ago. He's actually here to attend a forum on Beijing's One Belt, One Road initiative that aims to redevelop land and maritime trade routes in the region. The Hong Kong government has pledged its support of this idea. He'll also meet 4 pro-democracy lawmakers and 4 lawmakers from the pro-Beijing camp. That's tomorrow. But the timing as well, this comes ahead of the legislative elections here in September and a year before Hong Kong's leadership contest next March. Though it's unlikely he's going to give any hints on whether the city's embattled current leader, CY Leung, will stand again. But it's pretty significant as it's the first visit by a Chinese state leader since 2012.
And bearing in mind that we saw those mass demonstrations in 2014, which ultimately, I think, to quite a lot of frustration of the demonstrators, didn't lead to much, will any demonstrations or any trouble in the coming hours and days actually help the case to maintain Hong Kong freedoms? What sort of discussions are going on? You said they're mentioning some of the pro-democracy voices. They're talking to them, the pro-democracy voices. What will actually help their case?
Well, of course, Zhang is the chief of the group which deals with Hong Kong affairs, and he was in charge of that decision that sparked the 2014 pro-democracy Occupy protest. Back then, it was announced that Hong Kong could have one person, one vote, but only 2 or 3 candidates would be there and pre-selected. So there's this constant debate over Hong Kong identity, the one country, two systems agreement, and the handful of pro-democracy lawmakers will be hoping to make their voices heard. But there's already been some controversy because many politicians wishing to attend the banquet with him to perhaps meet with him have had to fill in forms asking for all kinds of personal details, photos, ID numbers, and some have simply pledged to boycott all the events surrounding his visit. So we're beginning to see some protests today, and there are bound to be some more tomorrow as well.
How would you estimate the chances of the authorities being caught out, because they pretty much were in 2014, by anything approaching that level of demonstration?
I don't think we'll see anything akin to the umbrella movement demonstrations. But as you say, there's been 6,000 police officers deployed, anti-terror response units. There's 250 huge water-filled barriers being deployed to keep protesters at bay. And in the Wan Chai area, where his hotel and the meetings will be, it's pretty much being made out of bounds for the 3-day visit. Even construction projects have been put on hold. We even saw police officers camping on top of Kowloon's iconic Lion Rock overnight to try and prevent activists from repeating a stunt from those massive protests a couple of years ago, where they unfurled a huge pro-democracy banner. Nevertheless, by this morning, a huge yellow "We Want Universal Suffrage" banner had appeared near Lion Rock, only to be quickly removed. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were some similar stunts over the next couple of days.
And Tom, very briefly, the story of gluing down the pavement, that is true, putting the glue in the cracks, is it, as far as we know?
Yes, indeed. Pavement stones have been literally glued down around government buildings. That came a few months after a night of unrest rocked the Mong Kok districts. Activists were scuffling with police. They lit fires and unrouted parts of the pavement. So that's probably a preemptive measure in case there are some hairier scenes this week.
Tom Grundy, many thanks indeed for that picture. There you are. So some demonstrators managing to get their message out despite the heavy security presence. Tom is editor-in-chief of the Hong Kong Free Press.